I still remember the morning Georgia walked into my examination room. She was 38 weeks pregnant, glowing in that effortless way some women do at the very end, when the discomfort hasn't yet erased the wonder. She had a small nursery bag hanging from her shoulder, the one she probably carried everywhere now, just in case. Her husband Mark followed behind her, holding a half-empty coffee cup and trying to hide his nervous excitement behind a calm smile. "Almost there," Georgia said, sitting down on the paper-covered table. She placed both hands on her belly, a gesture I have seen thousands of times. A mother's silent check-in with her unborn child. Is she okay? Is she moving? Is she still with me? Everything about her chart looked perfect. Blood pressure ideal. Weight gain normal. No swelling, no protein in her urine, no warning signs at all. The baby had been head down for weeks, positioned beautifully for a natural delivery. Georgia had done everything right. She attended every class, read every book, practiced her breathing exercises. She had imagined this birth 100 different ways, always ending with her holding her daughter, exhausted but triumphant. "So this is the final check before the main event," I said, washing my hands. "Let's see how your baby girl is positioned today." Georgia smiled and leaned back. Mark squeezed her hand. The room felt warm and safe. Then I placed my hands on her lower abdomen, and something felt wrong. The familiar hard curve of the baby's head was not where it should have been. I pressed a little deeper, moving my fingers along the contours of her belly, trying to find the position I had felt just 1 week earlier. But it wasn't there. I said nothing at first. I simply moved my hands again, silently hoping I had made a mistake. But I hadn't. The baby had moved. Sometime in the last 7 days, Georgia's daughter had shifted into a transverse lie, lying sideways across her mother's womb, a position that made a normal delivery not just difficult, but dangerously impossible. I pulled the ultrasound machine closer without explaining why. Georgia noticed my silence. Her smile faded slowly, replaced by a quiet question her lips hadn't yet formed. "What is it?" she asked. And that is when the calm ended. I turned the ultrasound screen so Georgia could see it. The image was unmistakable. Her baby girl was stretched horizontally across her womb, head on one side, bottom on the other. Not angled, not slightly turned, completely sideways. A transverse lie at 38 weeks is not a minor complication. It is a wall, a hard stop. "Georgia," I said softly, "your baby has moved into a position called transverse lie. It means she is lying across your belly instead of head down." She stared at the screen, blinking slowly as if her brain was refusing to translate the image into meaning. "But she was head down last week," she whispered. I felt her head. "You said she was perfect." I nodded. She was. Sometimes, very late in pregnancy, babies can still move. It's rare this late, but it happens. Mark stepped closer to the screen, his coffee cup forgotten on the counter. "So what does that mean? Can you turn her?" I explained as gently as I could. At 38 weeks, the baby is too large for an external version to be safe or likely successful. The fluid is less, the womb is tighter. And even if we tried, the risks to the cord and the placenta were real. Then how does she come out? Georgia's voice was small now, hollow. I took a breath. "She cannot be born naturally in this position, Georgia. If labor starts while she is transverse, the cord could prolapse. Her shoulder could get stuck. Her oxygen supply could be cut off in minutes. We cannot let you go into labor like this." Her hand moved to her chest, pressing hard against her sternum, as if something inside her was cracking open. "So what are you saying?" "We need to schedule a C-section. As soon as possible." The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of everything she had just lost. Her birth plan, her dream of natural delivery, her trust in her own body. All of it shattered in a single conversation. I walked them through the plan carefully. A C-section scheduled for the day after tomorrow. I explained every step, from the spinal anesthesia to the incision to the moment they would hear their daughter cry. I used calm, measured words, the kind I had perfected over 20 years of delivering difficult news. But Georgia wasn't really listening. I could see it in her eyes. She had stopped hearing me somewhere around the word surgery. Mark asked the practical questions. How long would it take? What were the risks to the baby? How long would Georgia need to recover? His voice was steady, but his hands kept moving, picking up the coffee cup, putting it down, adjusting his glasses. Small betrayals of a fear he was trying to hide. Georgia sat completely still. Her hands rested on her belly, but she wasn't rubbing it anymore. She was just holding it, as if bracing herself. A C-section is safe, I said, looking directly at her. You and your baby will be monitored the entire time. You will not feel pain. Your husband can be right there with you. She nodded slowly. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. Did I do something wrong? I reached out and touched her arm. No. Nothing. These things happen without warning. Your body did not fail you. Your baby simply moved, and we are adapting to keep you both safe. She tried to smile. It didn't reach her eyes. Mark wrapped an arm around her shoulders, but she didn't lean into him the way she had before. She was already retreating somewhere private, somewhere he couldn't follow, somewhere she was already mourning the birth she would never have. I handed her a tissue. She hadn't even realized she was crying. The night before the surgery, sleep would not come for Georgia. She lay in the dark bedroom, surrounded by the quiet hum of the house she and Mark had spent months preparing. The nursery door was open. She could see the faint outline of the crib from where she lay. The mobile above it hung still, waiting. Mark was beside her, finally asleep after hours of trying to comfort her with words that felt empty. He meant well. He always meant well. But he could not feel what she felt. He could not carry this weight inside his own body. She turned onto her side and placed both palms flat against her belly. Her baby girl was moving. Slow rolling shifts. Not frantic. Almost thoughtful. As if she too could feel that something was different. Georgia had never spoken directly to her unborn daughter before. Not like this. Not in the dark, when no one else could hear. I'm scared, she whispered into the pillow. Her voice was so quiet it barely existed. I'm so scared something is going to go wrong tomorrow. The baby pressed a foot against her ribs. A small response. A reminder that she was still there. What if I don't get to hold you right away? What if you need help breathing? What if I hear you cry and they take you away? Tears slid down her cheeks, soaking the fabric beneath her face. She didn't wipe them away. She let them fall. I wanted to feel you come into this world, she continued, her voice breaking. I wanted to push. I wanted to feel you on my chest the second you arrived. And now I'm going to be cut open on a table, while strangers hand you to your father first. She closed her eyes and pressed her forehead against her own hands. Please be okay. That's all I need. Just please be okay. The clock on the nightstand read 3:47 a.m. She had never felt more alone. Dawn came slowly, pushing pale light through the bedroom curtains. Georgia had not slept. Not really. She had drifted somewhere between wakefulness and exhaustion, her mind replaying the same fears on an endless loop. But when she finally pushed herself up to sit on the edge of the bed, something felt different. The baby was moving. Not the usual morning stretches she had grown accustomed to over the past 9 months. This was different. Stronger. More determined. The movements rolled across her belly like waves, pushing against her ribs and then her pelvis, then back again. Georgia placed her hand on her stomach and frowned. She stood up slowly, holding the bed frame for balance. The baby shifted again. A hard, deliberate turn that made her gasp quietly. Mark stirred behind her, rubbing his eyes. You okay? She hesitated. She's moving a lot. Like really moving. More than usual. Mark sat up, still half asleep. She's probably just reacting to our stress. You've been crying all night. She feels that. Georgia wanted to believe that explanation. It made sense. Babies responded to their mother's emotions. Everyone said so. But something in her gut whispered differently. This was not stress movement. This was purposeful. Strong. She didn't say anything else. She simply walked to the bathroom and started getting ready. The hospital bag sat by the bedroom door, packed and zipped. The car keys were on the kitchen counter. The surgery was scheduled for 9 o'clock. On the drive to the hospital, Georgia kept her hand on her belly the entire time. The baby never stopped moving, rolling, shifting, rearranging herself in ways that felt almost impossible this late in pregnancy. Mark drove in silence, focusing on the road. Neither of them spoke about what the movements might mean. Neither of them wanted to hope. The hospital hallway smelled like antiseptic and quiet panic. Georgia sat on the edge of a gurney in the preoperative bay, a thin hospital gown tied loosely at her back. The fabric felt cold against her skin. Everything felt cold. The floor, the rails of the bed, the metal stand holding her fore. A nurse with kind eyes had inserted the line into her hand 20 minutes ago. Georgia watched the clear fluid drip down the tube and into her vein. She did not feel any calmer. Mark sat beside her in a plastic chair, holding her free hand. He had stopped trying to fill the silence with reassuring words. He simply held on. She appreciated that more than she could say. The anesthesiologist came by to introduce himself. A tall man with a gentle voice who explained exactly what she would feel. The spinal injection. The numbness spreading from her chest down. The tugging and pressure without the pain. Georgia nodded at all the right moments. She asked none of the questions screaming inside her head. What if the spinal went too high? What if she couldn't breathe? What if she heard her baby cry, and then stopped hearing anything at all? Another nurse appeared to confirm her identity and the procedure. Georgia, we are scheduled for a C-section due to transverse lie. Is that still your understanding? Yes, she whispered. Down the hall, someone was preparing the operating room. She could hear the metallic clatter of instruments being arranged. The sound made her stomach clench. How much longer? Mark asked. About 15 minutes, the nurse said. The doctor will come get you soon. Georgia closed her eyes and pressed her palm against her belly. The baby was still moving. Strong and steady. Almost impatient. She leaned her head against Mark's shoulder and said the only thing she could say. I'm not ready for this. Neither was he. Neither was anyone in that cold, sterile room. I walked into the preoperative bay holding a small portable ultrasound machine. It was our standard protocol. One final confirmation of the baby's position before we wheeled her into the operating room. Just to be absolutely certain. Just to protect ourselves from any last-minute surprises. Georgia looked up at me with exhausted, red-rimmed eyes. Her fore was already in place. The surgical consent forms were signed. Everything was ready. Last look, I said softly, squeezing her shoulder. Then we go have a baby. She nodded and lifted her hospital gown just enough for me to access her belly. Mark stood beside her, his hand still wrapped around hers. The room was quiet except for the distant beeping of monitors from nearby rooms. I squeezed the cool gel onto her lower abdomen and placed the ultrasound probe against her skin. The image flickered onto the small screen. I expected to see what I had seen 2 days ago. A transverse lie. Baby girl stretched sideways across Georgia's womb. Head on the left. Bottom on the right. But that is not what I saw. I stopped moving the probe. My hand froze mid-air. The image on the screen was wrong. Not wrong in a bad way. Wrong in a way that made no medical sense whatsoever. Georgia noticed my hesitation immediately. What? What is it? I didn't answer. I tilted the probe, adjusted the angle, and scanned again from a different position. The image remained the same. I pressed deeper, moving the probe across her entire abdomen, searching for any evidence of the transverse lie we had confirmed just 48 hours earlier. It wasn't there. Georgia's baby girl was head down. Perfectly, beautifully, undeniably head down. In an anterior position. Facing her mother's spine. The safest possible position for a natural delivery. I scanned a third time. Then a fourth. Mark leaned forward. Is something wrong with the machine? The machine was fine. The machine was not the problem. The problem was that what I was seeing should have been impossible. I called for another ultrasound machine. Then I called for another doctor. Dr. Harris, the senior obstetrician on call, arrived within minutes, her eyebrows raised in curiosity. I didn't explain. I simply pointed at the screen and handed her the probe. She scanned Georgia's belly in silence. Then she scanned again. Then she looked at me with an expression I had seen maybe 3 times in my entire career. Pure, un guarde disbelief. This is not a transverse lie, Dr. Harris said slowly. This baby is head down, low, engaged, ready for delivery. You said she couldn't turn this late. You said there wasn't enough room. I had said those things, and they had been true. Medically, logically, statistically true. But Georgia's baby had not read the medical textbooks. She had not consulted the statistics. She had simply moved. We don't have an explanation, I admitted. Sometimes, very rarely, late-term versions happen. The baby finds space where we thought there was none. It's not impossible. It's just unexpected. Georgia's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But these tears were different. These were not tears of grief or fear. These were tears of something she had stopped allowing herself to feel. Hope. We canceled the operating room. We canceled the anesthesiologist. We canceled the surgery that had felt so certain just minutes ago. And then we started monitoring her for labor. We moved Georgia to a labor and delivery suite. The room was larger than the preoperative bay. Warmer. Softer lighting. A bed that looked almost comfortable. But the monitors were the same. The belts wrapped around her belly, tracking every contraction and every flicker of her baby's heartbeat. I sat on a small stool beside her bed and watched the tracing print out in thin, curling lines. Strong heartbeat. 140 beats per minute. Perfect. But I couldn't relax. Not completely. And neither could Georgia. What if she turns back? Georgia asked. Her voice was raw from crying. What if she moves again during labor, and we don't catch it in time? I told her the truth. That is possible. It's rare, but it's possible. That is why we are going to keep you on this monitor continuously. That is why I am not leaving this floor. The moment anything changes, we will know immediately. Mark sat in the rocking chair by the window, his elbows on his knees, his eyes fixed on the monitor screen. He was learning to read the numbers himself. Heart rate. Contraction strength. Oxygen saturation. He had become an amateur obstetrician in the span of a few hours. Hours passed. Georgia's contractions grew stronger. More regular. Her body was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. But every time she felt a particularly strong contraction, her eyes would dart to mine with silent terror. Is it still okay? Is she still head down? I checked her with the ultrasound every 30 minutes. Each time, the baby was exactly where she should be. Head down. Spine curved. Ready. She's stubborn, Georgia whispered during one of the checks, almost smiling. She's not going to move back. I smiled back. But inside, I was still holding my breath. In this profession, you learn not to celebrate too early. You learn that hope is fragile. And you learn that sometimes, the hardest part is not the emergency. The hardest part is the waiting. 10 hours after we canceled the C-section, Georgia reached full dilation. 10 hours of monitored contractions. 10 hours of holding her breath after every ultrasound. 10 hours of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never did. The delivery room filled with quiet purpose. A nurse adjusted the lights. Another arranged the sterile instruments. I pulled on my gloves and positioned myself at the foot of the bed. Mark stood beside Georgia's shoulder, his hand cupping the back of her head. You can do this, he said. You were made for this. Georgia looked up at him with exhausted, tear-streaked eyes. She was sideways 2 days ago, she whispered. How is this even happening? I didn't have an answer. Neither did anyone else in that room. Some things in medicine cannot be explained. Some things simply arrive like gifts you never asked for, and do not deserve. Okay, Georgia, I said. Next contraction, I need you to push. The monitor beeped. Her belly tightened. And she pushed. The first push brought the baby's head into view. Dark hair. Perfectly shaped skull. No shoulder dystocia. No cord prolapse. No sign of the transverse lie that had haunted us for 2 days. She pushed again. And again. And again. Mark counted for her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The baby's head emerged. I checked quickly for the cord. Clear. I guided her tiny shoulders through. And then, with one final, primal scream that came from somewhere deeper than exhaustion, Georgia pushed her daughter completely into the world. The cry came immediately. Loud. Angry. Perfect. It's a girl, I said, even though everyone already knew. I placed the baby on Georgia's chest, skin to skin, exactly where she belonged. Exactly the way Georgia had always dreamed it would be. The room erupted in quiet tears. Not just from the parents. From the nurses. From me. Georgia could not stop touching her daughter. Her fingers traced the tiny curve of the baby's ear, the soft sweep of her cheek, the impossible smallness of her clenched fists. The baby girl lay against her chest, wrapped in a white hospital blanket, her dark eyes blinking slowly at the bright new world she had entered just minutes ago. Mark leaned over them both, his forehead pressed against George's temple. He was crying openly now, not bothering to hide it. His shoulders shook with the kind of sobs that come from a place deeper than relief. The kind that come from having stood at the edge of every parent's worst fear, and then been pulled back. She's here, Georgia whispered. She's actually here. The baby made a small sound, almost a sigh, and nestled closer to her mother's warmth. Georgia kissed the top of her head and closed her eyes. I stood at the foot of the bed, watching the three of them. The delivery room was quiet now. The monitors had been unhooked. The emergency instruments had been put away. What remained was simply this. A mother, a father, a daughter, alive and whole. I thought about the night before. Georgia lying alone in the dark, whispering her fears to a baby who could not answer. I thought about the strange movements at dawn, the canceled surgery, the ultrasound that defied everything I thought I knew. Some stories stay in your heart forever. This one would stay in mine. Thank you. There are silent pregnancy struggles many women never talk about. The plans that change. The fears that swallow them whole in the dark. The moments when hope feels like a dangerous thing to hold. But sometimes hope holds on anyway.